Stella, if you'd please read the call. This meeting is called to order.
Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene an executive session and regular meeting on Tuesday, May 1st, 2007, at 5:05 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Federal Building located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Executive session items. Item A, discussion pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code regarding real property. Item B, discussion pursuant to Section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code regarding economic development opportunities. Item C, discussion pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code regarding real property.
Mayor, so move that we go into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Camarillo, seconded by Commissioner Longoria to go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll be in executive session. Now have a quorum. If everybody could please stand. Do we have anybody for the pledge this evening? No? All right.
I'll do the pledge.
Commissioner?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one and indivisible.
Please remain standing for the invocation by Mr. Bob Clark.
Heavenly Father, we're very thankful that we have an opportunity to live in a free country, to come before you this evening. We thank you for the blessings of the past, the blessings for tonight, and the blessings for the future. Lord, I want to pray especially for the graduates of our local high schools and colleges. I want to pray, Lord, that many continue with better education. But Lord, I ask you to put into their hearts to stay in the valley, stay in Brownsville, and help us build this into a mighty metro community. Lord, I thank you for the prosperity that we enjoy. I thank you, Lord, for the leadership of our city. I thank you for the sincerity of our mayor and our commissioners and all the department heads of the city of Brownsville. I ask for you to guide them and guard them and be with them, Lord. I'm not a one for fences or brick walls, but I'm one for your protection. So I ask for your protection over each and every one of them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, Bob. All right. Before we get to the proclamation, there is a presentation to be made by the Brownsville Community Health Clinic. We have the board president, the Honorable Juan Jose Martinez. Judge? May I approach? Absolutely, Judge.
Thank you, Commissioner Arroyo, and Commissioner Camarillo, and Commissioner Atkinson, whom I don't know, but nice to meet you, and Commissioner Longoria, and of course, Mayor Trevino. We come in peace. No more taxes. Oh, that's the wrong piece. I'm here because we're very grateful. There's a lot of people out there in the community.
Judge, could I get you to speak into the mic?
I thought I was loud, but I guess
Only when you're on the bench, Judge.
I've been humbled here. Okay. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people very grateful to you out there in your community. People from all over the place, from all kinds and all ages, the elderly and the young. And they're very thankful for what you did. It's amazing. Most of my trips to an august body like this is to come and ask for something. Telling Bill here that I've been in many battles, social battles, of course. I've lost most of them. I won some, but I've never lost the war. But here I come in the spirit of goodness, we come to thank you. And I don't have the words or wisdom to really touch your hearts the way we'd like to touch them from the people, the voice of the people. They're very grateful for what you did with the clinic that I call La Clínica de los Pobres, La Clínica de Madre Teresa. Of course, here they call it the Brownsville City Clinic. And it really belonged to Edelstein because he started it all. I remember paying 25 cents for my first immunization shot, thanks to him. And after that, I mean, there's hundreds of others that have taken advantage. And thanks again for what you did. We're very, very grateful. People don't believe me. They say I exaggerate, but this is the honest truth. I've told President Bush and his colleagues in Washington that here in this part of our country, and this is America, believe it or not, we have more people street by street compared to all our country in wheelchairs than any other place in this country because of diabetes. And there's only one scientist that agrees with me that part of that fault, and there are many, many variables, part of that fault is the mosquitoes. And that's Dr. Guevara, the only scientist that agrees with me. But someday they'll discover this part of the truth. We just have too many people here with cancer, too many people with hypertension, too many people with young people with cancer of the cervix, which is unbelievable because that only goes to the elderly. But we're experiencing all kinds of situations that are very, very tragic. And part of it, of course, is the environment, and part of it is the diseases. All my respects to our friends in Mexico. They don't need papers to come over. They don't need Minutemen to stop them. They just come over. I call diseases. But be that as it may, let me thank you again by saying that I have some friends from the board. Mr. Rafael Salazar. Where are you, Mr. Rafael Salazar? To his grave, you want to say
Yes,
something?
I want to thank you, Mayor, and the commission, and everybody that helped, enforce and help us with that clinic. Lots of people would not be able to get dental care, medical care, were it not for you all and for your generosity. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Salazar.
I just want to thank you also personally because I'm a baby member of the board, but in the short time that I've been there, I've been able to experience the rewards through seeing the people get medical attention, and it's all made possible through your help as well as other agencies. But Brownsville, by being so considerate in their assistance at this time, has provided a lot of assistance to our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza.
Mayor and Commission, thank you very much for your continued support in our mission to provide primary health care to the citizens of Brownsville.
Thank you.
It's been there 100 years.
I would like to stay another 100 years, yes. I just wanted to tell you the impact is incredible. I did some quick calculations in the last 20 years that we have been a community health center. We have seen approximately 1.8 million visits. That's a testament to the city of Brownsville, where the clinic actually has been in operation a lot longer than 20 years. It is the vision of this city and the vision of people like yourselves who are volunteers that have allowed us to get as far as we can. I know that in the next 15 years that you have granted us to stay in the building at $1 a year, we will make you prouder. Thank you for all you do, and these are just a few of the things that you do in the city that people really don't know about. So, again, mil gracias.
Thank you, Paula.
Mayor Trina, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that some of you, believe it or not, are working on trying to help us out, kind of rebuild the parking space, because we've had quite a lot of injuries there because there's holes and there's people in wheelchairs and it's hard for them to get into the clinic. So we appreciate that, and we're willing to pay for some of it. And
Judge,
yes,
most of the work on the infrastructure on the streets is already underway.
excellent.
That is a project that we're currently undertaking already.
We appreciate it very,
so,
very much.
As far as that is concerned, we have addressed that already, specifically on Orange Street. We have already addressed that issue, so we are working on that already as we speak. And as you all lie within that district, and I'm sure as the mayor and our at-large commissioner, de parte de mi gente,
Gracias, muy amable.
comunidad que represento,
Muchas gracias.
muy agradecidos por todos los servicios que ofrecen en la clínica, como le decimos todos en el lugar, la clínica. Les agradecemos todo lo que hacen por nuestra gente, tanto, not just the residents of Southmost, no nomás los residentes de Southmost, sino toda la gente de la ciudad que va y busca sus servicios y que ustedes se los pueden dar. Con eso no hay palabras para agradecerles todo lo que hacen ustedes ahí. And Judge, to you, God bless you for continuing to do this, and as well as the board members, because it is truly an act of love for what you do for our community and for our people. So on behalf of myself, and I know our Nuestra City Commission, thank you very much for what you do. Gracias.
You're very kind, and let me just end by saying that we don't turn anybody down, even if they don't have money. And of course, we're part of the historical note here. We're always lacking funds, and we're lacking in doctors and the latest equipment. But we never turn anybody down. And anytime you're welcome for a free examination, I hope you don't mind my saying that, Paulita and Roberto. But thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Judge. Keep up the great work. Who was here for the Building Safety Week? Mr. Gomez. Come up here and get your picture taken.
Bill?
This is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, declaring May the 6th through the 12th, 2007 as Building Safety Week in our city. Whereas through our continuing attention to building safety, we enjoy the comfort and peace of mind of structures that are safe and sound. And whereas we dedicated members of the International Code Council, including building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, and others in the construction industry, develop and enforce codes to safeguard Americans in the buildings where we live, work, play, and learn. And whereas this year's theme, Building Smarter for Disasters and Everyday Life, encourages all Americans to raise our awareness of building safety and to take appropriate steps to ensure that the places where we live, work, play, and learn are safe, and that countless lives have been saved because of the building safety codes adopted and enforced by local and state agencies. And whereas this year, as we observe Building Safety Week, we ask all Americans to consider projects to improve building safety at home and in the community, and to recognize the local building safety and fire prevention officials and the important roles that they play in public safety. Therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, do hereby designate May the 6th through the 12th, 2007 as Building Safety Week in our city, and further urge all our citizens to participate in Building Safety Week activities and to assist others in improving their building safety, done on this first day of May 2007, signed by the Mayor and the Commissioners. Mr. Gomez, if you'd like to say a few words, we would appreciate it.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, ladies and gentlemen. National Building Safety Week was first observed in 1980 to raise public awareness of building safety by promoting the use, enforcement, and understanding of building safety, fire prevention codes to protect lives and property. Our department works hand in hand with Fire Department Chief Perez and his inspectors, Engineering Department Carlos Lastra, Health Department Jose Ramirez, and his staff to ensure the safety of citizens of our community. By doing our jobs each day, we provide the first line of defense against building disasters and ensure that the structures you and your loved ones live in, play in, worship, and attend school are safe. This year, our department will be conducting presentations at 3 local high schools to promote building safety, careers in building, engineering, architecture, and related fields. Again, thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Good luck. All right, item 3.
Item 3, consent agenda items number A through E.
So move.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 4.
Item 4, consideration and action to appoint or reappoint one member to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Mr. Keller, I have spoken to Mr. Ortiz, and he has asked to be reappointed, so my motion would be to reappoint Mr. Ortiz to the
Second.
Parks, seconded by Commissioner Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5.
Item 5, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2007-008-S to allow a light retail professional office and light retail use in a dwelling G classification for lots 25 through 31 and 35 through 38 of Silver Oak subdivision located near Ruben Torres FM 802 and Laredo Road.
Honorable Mayor and City Commission, in this particular case, which is shaded in red, this is a specific use where the developer is proposing to extend his commercial development into the residential lots. In this particular case, the Planning and Zoning Commission directed staff to work with the developer and the neighborhood to work out a site plan that was favorable to both. Staff had 2 meetings at the West Side Community Center with both the developer and the neighborhood and came to a consensus, and that site plan is in your packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission at the last meeting voted unanimously to approve the site plan and the application and then forward it to you for your approval.
All right, this is a public hearing.
Move to close.
Motion to close by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Arroyo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Action.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Arroyo, seconded by Commissioner Atkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Item 6, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2007-011-S to allow a medium retail specific use water mill in a professional office classification for Lot 65, Block 1 of El Valle North subdivision located near Iowa Street and El Valle Street.
Honorable Mayor and City Commission, this is a property shaded in red here, Iowa and El Valle. This is a proposed location for a water mill. The Plan and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to approve this application for your approval.
This is a public hearing.
Move to close.
Motion to close by Commissioner Atkinson,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Action.
Approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve by Commissioner Camarillo, seconded by Commissioner Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 7.
Item 7, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2007-014 to rezone from medium commercial G classification to medium industrial G, 8CG classification, 3 acres out of Lot 6, Block 5 of El Jardín re-subdivision located near FM 511 and Dakota Avenue.
Honorable Mayor, in this particular case, Magic Valley would like to create a substation on Dakota Avenue. It needs medium industrial zoning, and this is the area shaded in red here. The Plan and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to approve this application for you.
Move to close. Oh, sorry.
This is a public hearing.
Close, Mayor.
Motion to close by Commissioner Longoria,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
I'd move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Item 8, public hearing and action to adopt October 1, 2007 to September 30th, 2008 consolidated plan budget of the city's housing and urban development entitlement grants.
Honorable Mayor and City Commission, this is again our annual allocation of CDBG funds. Mr. Medrano will make the presentation and introduce the Citizens Advisory Committee. But in behalf of the staff, I would really like to thank the committee. They spent numerous hours going through stacks of paper. We had to buy them a cart because
I was
the,
wondering why that was there.
just to show you how many proposals was received, over $5 million or close to $5 million of requests. We had to buy them a cart because we didn't want them to get hurt carrying this stack of paper back and forth to their meetings. They met many hours, analyzing, meeting with nonprofits, touring the sites, including touring some of the city streets. But they worked very diligently and made a good, are making a good presentation to you tonight. Mr. Medrano?
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. These are members of the BCAC, Minnie Garcia, Rose Gomez, Antonio Martinez, Gloria Rico, and Arturo Rodriguez. On February 20th of this year, this commission directed the BCAC to consider application funding for the city's HUD entitlement grants for fiscal year '07 and '08. This committee volunteered a total of aggregated hours of over 400 hours to review 36 applications, preside over 2 public hearings, 2 work meetings, and 1 tour. I'm happy to report that the committee's recommendations have been finalized. In behalf of Mr. Medina and the planning staff, I would like to thank these members for their hard work and dedication. I would also like to now introduce Mr. Arturo Rodriguez for the recommendations to the commission.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners,
Welcome.
ladies and gentlemen. The BCAC makes the following recommendations based on the HUD funding available. and the community needs and priorities that the committee heard during the public hearings and which are outlined in the city's 5-year consolidated plan. The following recommendations the committee has ascertained will have the most significant, immediate, and direct impact on the city's low and moderate residents. Please note that the dollar amounts have been rounded off. This year, the BCAC considered a total of $5.9 million in funding requests from the Community Development Block Grant. The funding available is $3.4 million. Under the Social Services Program category, the committee recommends that the full 15%, which is $503,000, be utilized as allowed by the HUD rules and regulations. Under this category, Health Services topped the list with $197,000, followed by Child Abuse and Prevention Services with $95,000. Next, Youth Services with $68,000, followed by Job Training with $54,000, Substance Abuse with $35,000. The remaining $53,000 went to Elderly Services, Family Services, and Housing Counseling. Under the housing category of the CDBG, we recommend that $578,000 be awarded for the housing rehabilitation and transitional housing. Under Public Facilities and Improvement category, we recommend that $1.3 million be awarded to street reconstruction and $178,000 be awarded for sidewalk construction in communities in close proximity to our schools. Next, the Emergency Shelter Grant. The BCAC considered a total of $282,000 in funding requests. Funding available is $144,000. This grant is restricted to homeless services only. The BAC recommends that the Friendship of Women, Good Neighbors Settlement House, the Alzenum Center be awarded the $144,654,000 available in proportion to the homeless needs as is indicated in the spreadsheet enclosed in your packets. Finally, the Home Investment Partnership Program grant and American Dream Down Payment Initiative, the ADDI grant. The BAC considered a total of $3,040,000 in funding requests for housing. Funding available is $1,157,000. The BAC recommends that $400,000 be awarded to the Chicory Court Tax Credit Project as a loan. Next, that $182,000 be awarded to the Brownsville Affordable Housing Corporation for new housing, and that $575,000 be awarded to the city's down payment assistance program. This concludes this presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you. Also, on behalf, Commissioner Cisneros called me and said that he also supported the BCAC in their recommendations. Thank you.
First of all, on behalf of the City Commission, let me thank all of you for your efforts in coming up with these recommendations. Many of you have been doing this now for several years, and I want to thank you all for your service to the community. It's a very, very important job that you all do, and we would not be able to get our job done without the efforts that you've provided to each and every one of us. Are there any questions?
Sure.
This is a public hearing? All right, yeah.
Second.
Oh, hold on.
First come.
We have one. You could please speak,
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Paul Hansen. To begin with, I didn't catch the amount or couldn't see it. Planned Parenthood received how much?
$17,500.
Okay, I'd like to address the subject of Planned Parenthood funding. I live on Tulane Avenue. I attend Vineyard Christian Fellowship. I am a tax-paying, patriotic, voting citizen, and I spoke at a previous hearing when these people made their presentation before. And so I would like to publicly state in the strongest possible terms my opposition to giving Planned Parenthood $1, 1 cent of any public monies coming through Brownsville and Cameron County. And personally, my reasons are moral, religious, ethical, but even if you don't share those reasons, I think I can give you 63 million good reasons to defund Planned Parenthood. This is from the Planned Parenthood website, their own website, and it states in fiscal year ending in '05 that their profit was $63 million nationwide. So if their parent organization made a profit of $63 million, do we really need to give them 63 cents? Certainly their parent organization could fund them without our help. This is not the Ozanam Center or Little League or soccer leagues or Boy Scouts. This is Planned Parenthood. This is a rogue organization. This is an organization that is outside the pale of the convictions of a majority of Brownsville residents. We are a religious community, and why our money is going to fund them, I don't understand. So this is what I think should be done. I think one of you should raise your hand and say, I move to defund Planned Parenthood. And then I think another one should raise their hand and say, I second the motion. Let them get their money from their $63 million national chest. And then 4 out of 7 of you just say, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it. It could be done. No one owes Planned Parenthood anything. So I ask you to do the right thing, to set a precedent, to make the city proud, and just let them fund themselves. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. This is a public hearing?
To the members of the committee, if you would like to take your seats, we do have a couple of people, so we're very appreciative, and thank you for being here, and please remain with us, but if you would like to take your seats, that'd be great.
Thank you very much for all your work.
Go ahead, sir.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, my name's Bill Poole. I'm a associate pastor at the local church, Good Shepherd, and I share probably the same beliefs as Mr. Hanson does, but I want to address the committee also on other issues, not moral or religious issues. There was a packet put before you that I will be speaking from, highlights the reasons for our desire that Planned Parenthood not be funded again, because their own reports indicate that they nationally made $63 million last year. And their own IRS tax return, their latest available public tax return, Schedule A, indicates that between the last 2 tax years, they had an increase of $84,456 in payroll for 4 employees, 1 caseworker and 3 nurses. The caseworker salary is $50,003. The nurses' salaries are $57,116, $67,706, and $74,305. And this is for a clinic which is only open half a day, 5 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're open from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And Tuesday and Thursday, they're either open those hours or 3 afternoon hours, depending on the nurse's discretion. This is a total in benefits and deferred compensation, according to their tax return, of $275,164. And so I wonder why the city should fund them with additional revenue when their salaries seem quite exorbitant. Not only that, their own, if you call them, they list fees for the services they provide. Pregnancy test is $20. STD testing is $61.50. And a pelvic exam, pap smear, and breast exam, and an office visit with a nurse is $64.50, for a total of $146 that is required of the patient on their first visit in cash, in full, before any services are provided. On the second page of the documents before you, there are a list of about 23 organizations here in Brownsville that are also providing the same services. Everything from the American Red Cross to the Brownsville Community Health Clinic and Health Center to Cameron County Department of Health and Human Services, the Catholic Social Services, CHIPS, Friends of Women, Good Neighborhood Settlement, Lucio Clinic, Monica's House, as well as Planned Parenthood, the Pregnancy Testing Center, which provides similar services except for the recommendation for abortion, and that organization is privately funded and seeks no funds from the city to perform the services that they offer. And most of those services, if not all of them, are free to the client, right? And many of these organizations Tip of Texas Outreach as well provide the educational programs that Planned Parenthood does. Many of them are free or at a reduced cost depending on the client's income. And on the third page of the document you were given is the detailed profits for Planned Parenthood since 1999. And their profits in the millions have increased from 125 million in 99 to 59 million in 2000. The next year was 38.9 million, 12.2 million in 2002, 36 million in 2003, and 63 million, 74 million to the national organization the following year. So they're more than doubling their national revenue. And it just doesn't seem necessary to give this money to them, not on a moral basis, but just on a fiscal basis. There's other organizations here in town that need these funds and are not able to fund themselves, and they provide vital services to the community. So I would ask that you refuse these funds to Planned Parenthood and use them for another organization locally that could use them to a far greater degree.
Thank you, Mr. Poole.
Thank you.
Pastor Poole, I just wanted to comment. I did receive this information today, and for the sake of the viewing audience, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't funding abortions. So I called Planned Parenthood to address some of the issues you've just spoken about. And I was told that the local affiliate here in Brownsville receives no monies from their national association, none. I was also told that they're a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization, and they have their own board of directors, and they are a separate incorporation. They do their own fundraising, and that this money that is coming from CDBG is for mammograms and pap smears, and what was my third thing? Mammograms, pap smears, and...
Pelvic exams.
Yes, for those 3 items only. And then when I mentioned the other agencies that were listed on your form, American Red Cross, Pregnancy Testing, Valley AIDS, and Department of Health and Human Services, there was no duplication, and they went into it specifically with me. I just, I wanted to make sure that I had that information clear. I also asked them, what population they served, because in the letter I received from you, it said that, the understanding with CDBG is for the poor and underprivileged. Well, they specifically address the poor and underprivileged, and they never recommend abortion. Unless, obviously, if the physician feels the mother's life is in danger, something like that, but they're providing counseling, reputable counseling like you would receive in a physician's office. This is what I was completely assured of.
Right.
Brother Poole, if you'll allow me, I had this discussion with our Reverend Jerry Frank. Also, in the explanation, this majority of this money goes to my area, goes to Southmost, goes to the center that they have there. And we do not, through this money, they do not use it for operations and management. This money goes strictly to the women that cannot afford these exams. If you're familiar with the organization, I am United Columbus, and I am a member of the Pro-Life Committee. And we are in no way endorsing or giving money to any kind of an abortion. We're strictly against that. This is just, these monies serve a purpose, and they help these women that cannot afford these exams. And therefore, that is why the money is allocated. The money is earmarked and specifically given so that they may receive these kinds of services and these kinds of exams that they normally would not be able to afford. They will not pay the $64.50. This money is used to cover that exam so that they don't have to pay the $64.50.
Well, that's what I called them about today and spoke to a lady by the name of Sonia there, and I asked her, in fact, if a person could not pay these fees, what option would they have? If there was some provision for them because they don't have the funds, and she told me no. They can refer them to other agencies that may help them if they qualify for financial aid or Medicaid. The Department of Human Services definitely provides all of these services at low or no cost to those people. All right, and so they told me today that they will not provide these services gratis or free or pro bono, that if you can't pay in cash upon your visit, that these services cannot be provided for you. As far as the abortion issue, Planned Parenthood does not conduct abortions, all right? It's not part of what they do, all right? If that decision is made, they're referred to there's only one agency that I know of in the valley that provides them, and it's in Harlingen. So they do not do abortions. I'm not here to make that argument at all. All right, my concern is that they don't provide these services at no cost to people who can't afford them. They will refer them to other agencies that do that, and I would prefer to see these monies go to those agencies that provide them at no charge, because they indeed need that money. Now, by whatever means Planned Parenthood is able to raise these funds, whether they're funded nationally or not, they're apparently, according to salary, very capable of raising the funds they need to do that. And I would like to see these funds go to an organization here locally that provides those services at no cost to people exactly from your area.
The Department of Health and Human Services, however, only provides prenatal and immunization. They don't have clinics that'll give pap smears and mammograms. The American Red Cross has no direct medical.
Right.
The Valley AIDS does HIV testing, no mammograms or
Right.
pap smears. And so
I
there was
think I
no
indicated-
conflict of interest there or duplication of services.
No, but from Brownsville Community Health Center, and also from the other clinics, Su Clinica Familiar.
Those weren't listed on my sheets.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're on the one that was given to you this evening.
I
Okay.
didn't receive those in time to
I'm sorry.
pursue that information.
Okay, so, those organizations do offer those services at no cost. And those are the very organizations I would hope would receive these monies, because they do provide those services at no cost to the client.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Martha Gonzalez. I'm president of Palmer Drug Abuse, and this is Delilah Garcia, administrative director for Palmer Drug Abuse. We want to thank you very much, and we'd like to thank the BCAC for their recommendation to the City Commission and to Skip Keller. This is going to be a wonderful 25th year anniversary for Palmer, and we continue to do the best that we can for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Terry Lievanos, and I am the Director of Community Affairs for Planned Parenthood of Cameron and Wellesley Counties. With me is Blanca Cavazos, our Director of Patient Services, who is also our CEO-elect, sitting in the back. We are grateful for the funding that the city has provided our Southmost Health Center for a number of years, and we deeply appreciate the city's continued confidence in our work. The recommendation of the advisory board is less than we requested, but we understand that there are many needs in Brownsville and that the funding from the federal government has been reduced in recent years. I don't have much time, so I'd like to tell you just a little about the services your dollars pay for. We serve women throughout the Southmost area with education, medical services, and teen pregnancy prevention. Our promotoras visit with women in their homes to tell them about the importance of pap smears and breast exams. Your funds pay for those pap smears and breast exams in our clinic on Southmost Road, and then another grant pays for mammograms and diagnostic tests that the women need. As you know, many of the women in this area, more than 40% in the valley and a higher proportion in Southmost, don't have health insurance. Without us, they would not be able to get these services at all. We also have a case manager who works with teen moms, helping them to stay in school, learn to be good mothers, and avoid another pregnancy. You may hear that we don't need the money because Planned Parenthood is so rich. That's totally untrue. Each affiliate of Planned Parenthood has to raise its own funding from donations, patient fees, and grants. We are very careful to spend every dollar as carefully and frugally as possible. We get no funding at all from the National Planned Parenthood. You may also hear that our services are duplicated by other agencies in Brownsville. This is also completely untrue. We work closely with the BCHC, which does a wonderful job providing care for clients who have acute or chronic problems. We provide the preventive health care and the contraceptive care and refer to BCHC or other providers for problems that screening has identified. Without our services, those problems would never have been identified. BCHC does not have the time or staff to provide the preventive care we do to the 3,000 women we serve in Brownsville, with roughly 2,000 of them in the southmost area. I trust that you will adopt the recommendation of your hardworking advisory board, and I thank you for this opportunity tonight.
Could you answer that question that Brother Poole brought up for me?
The question about referring,
There is no, you are charging a 6450 charge?
I'd like to give you a little history on that. The Old Participable Road Clinic is no longer government subsidized, and that was because of funding that was cut through the legislature a couple of years ago. Because of that, either we were going to close the clinic, or in order to keep our clinic open, we would have to go to private fee or private pay. The $64.50 is what you pay at that site for a pap smear. That is
Not at
correct.
Southmost.
No, sir. If someone were to tell us, I need this, I'd like to come here, but I can't pay, then we would refer them to Southmost. I mean, that's the referral, or another agency if it's closer to their home, if that's what they choose. But
What's the difference? If you're gonna end up telling them, you can go over here and not pay, then why are you doing that at that location?
because at the OPI
The old Port Isabel
location,
location.
in order to keep our doors open, sir, we had to come up with a way to keep them open and charge. And so there is a fee there.
Okay, but my concern is if, in order to keep the doors open, you need to be raising revenue, how many of those women are actually being told you can go to the other one for free then?
Those women who, they're told how much it costs to go to the OPI. If they indicate to us that they cannot pay, then we make the referral to Southmost. Now, because of the government subsidy that are in the other clinics, it's particularly the Southmost, it takes a little longer because of the paperwork and the criteria that's involved to become eligible for this government subsidies. Not everybody qualifies, unfortunately, although the women in the Southmost area do qualify for the most part. Then they would be transferred either to Southmost or San Benito or the Raymondville or Harlingen sites,
All right,
which
hold
do
on,
have government
Commissioner,
subsidies.
I got a few more questions. Explain to me then, and I understand what you're saying, that you are a local affiliate, basically you're independent, you're by yourselves, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How in the world then does the umbrella corporation of Planned Parenthood, Inc. Generate revenues that are given a profit of $63 million?
Those numbers.
Do you pay
excuse
them?
me.
Do you pay them
No.
an affiliate fee, or
We
how
have
do-
dues that we may have to pay every year to the affiliate for other purposes, but not for what you're thinking. They have national donors from around the country and around the world that give them money, and then that's how they promote their educational services and do that. But they don't give the monies to the affiliates, per se.
they don't in any way give
No,
any
sir.
type of support? I
Not
mean,
monetary.
Taking away the moral issue,
Right.
you know, I think
They give
Mr.
us
Poole's
medical-
argument is extremely strong in the sense that it's hard to argue that Planned Parenthood is not a profitable or money-making entity, and in that case, you know,
In any given year, sir, we start off with breaking even or between breaking even and $25,000. $25,000 is very little to start a fiscal year with. We do run 5 clinics. We have 5 health centers in both counties that we have to keep open for all of the members of our community, not just the people in Brownsville. So that's how that works. Does that help?
why doesn't the
That's not the way it's set up. There's over 120 affiliates, over 400 clinics, and we're all responsible for raising our own money.
what do they do with their profit, since it's a not-for-profit? What do they do with their money at the end
What
of
does
the
the
year?
national organization do with their money? Advocacy is one for reproductive rights nationally. They do have their own health center in New York, but that's separate from the national organization, the way that the funds are raised there.
So instead of
Other health center.
asking the National Planned Parenthood before you go under and having to charge $64, you couldn't ask for a grant from your own Planned Parenthood National? I think that's what you're asking, right?
They don't
They don't
provide
give any
that.
money.
They don't
That's
give
her
any
answer.
money
They do
to
not
the
give any
They're
affiliate.
not gonna give you no money at all,
They
even if you're gonna
they
go
give us
under.
medical guidance, they give us technical and support assistance in that regard. We follow their guidelines. We get medical advice, legal advice from them as far as that is concerned, but we don't get any monetary money coming in from them directly.
And you're saying that the clinic, the Brownsville Community Health Clinic, does not do the pelvic exam, pap smears, or breast exams?
That they don't do it in the way that we do it. They're not, they don't specialize in reproductive health care. They do chronic and acute diseases, things that diabetes.
Well, but they have an OBGYN that provides those services, so they are still doing the same thing. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Patient volume is really, really high, sir, and it's all they
I
can
agree
do to
because-
take care of the clients that they do see.
But they do the same things that you all do.
They do some of the same things, and more, some things
Actually,
we
they do
don't
a lot
do
more
at
than
all.
what you do.
Pardon me?
They do a lot more than what you do.
Yes. They're much more comprehensive in that regard for other things.
And if there's a problem with regards to an
If-
exam, you immediately refer them out to
To
whatever.
Suclinica or to BCHC, absolutely. Or to a physician, a provider that can take care of it.
To my understanding, when somebody comes into either or clinic, even if it is Southmost and it is a Southmost resident, they still have to apply for the waiver, correct? And if they don't qualify, even though they are from Southmost, if they don't qualify financially because of their pay, then they have to pay the $64.50, correct?
No, they wouldn't pay the $64.50. We have other programs available for them so that they would qualify for something at some point. They'll either get the service for free and pay nothing if they qualify for one kind of entitlement, or they'll pay a very low cost.
What are you saying that the 17,500 would go to?
Direct medical services in the Southmost area.
Meaning what? Does that go to pay for the
Pelvic exams, mammograms.
Pap,
exams
the pap
themselves?
smears, the
In other
pap
words-
smears, the STD screenings that we do, the treatment that we provide for STDs as well, everything except HIV. We refer that to Valley AIDS Council or to a private physician. Mammograms, screening mammograms, and then there's other grant monies if the woman requires further treatment for that.
So does that then go, does it go into your O&M, your operation? You say it goes directly to the exams. What do you mean?
It pays for the exams that we
And who's
provide.
charging for those exams?
What do you mean, who's charging for
You're,
them?
you're charging those $64, right?
No, sir, that's only at the OPI
Okay,
clinic.
so then who's charging for those exams at the free clinic at Southmost? I'm trying to understand, you're saying that the 17,000 would go to these exams to pay for them.
Right.
Well, who's charging for them? Planned Parenthood.
We're charging, the city is paying us, so we're charging the city to give us the
Is this
money
go-
to
is this
provide the
going to-
services.
Is this going to pay the physician? That's
Nurses?
In other words,
It
is
goes to
this-
pay the supplies and possibly some of the salaries for the people who provide the services there, yes.
What happens when the 17.5 will be for the whole fiscal year? What happens when the 17.5 is come and gone and you had month of June, X amount of people?
Well-
What happens after that? So then the service of being able to get any free, what do you do to those?
No, we're not gonna stop services. CDBG is just one of the funding sources that we look to provide services in this area. We do have other grants that we look for. We can't just rely on one individual funding source, though. We continue our services throughout the year. I did want to speak a little bit to some of the.
Go ahead.
We're open 5 days a week, 8 to 5, every day,
At both, or just at one?
all the clinics. Wednesdays, we close at 3. That's the only time that we close early. What this gentleman was referring to as far as when there's, at the nurse's discretion, that doesn't exist. We have 3 full-time nurse practitioners to handle 5 health centers. So if a nurse practitioner is not in the building at that time, it's because she is at another site providing clinic services and medical services to other members of the population in other areas. She's not home doing something else. She's working 40 hours a week. But we have to stretch 3 people into 5 centers.
How would you rate the service you do for the community of Brownsville?
How would I rate the service?
Yeah, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst.
5. I would trust my life to these women,
Great.
and I have.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. All right, any other comments for public hearing? Mr. Carrabba?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I guess maybe I might speak a little bit to the moral issues of this, but also I will speak as a parent. My name is Tommy Kruba. I pastor Hosanna Assembly here in Brownsville. I've been here for a little over 9 years. I got 2 teenagers. I got one 17, one 15. This organization, Planned Parenthood, could take my 15-year-old daughter, without me knowing it, to a medical facility and let her have an abortion,
If she wanted to.
regardless whether she wanted to or not. But that gets to my next issue. Planned Parenthood has no business raising my children. Most of us in here that are parents, we raise our children. And for them to go against what we believe and to take my daughter or anyone's daughter to go have a medical procedure done without me knowing it, without my permission, but a nurse at a school can't give my daughter an aspirin unless I get almost an act of David to get that done. You know, and so we look at these things, and we're a city here, and we're supposedly we care what's going on. We have walks against abuse of children. Just a few weeks ago, we had a candlelight vigil and a walk for Monica's house and Maggie's house, but to stop abuse of children. This organization has done nothing since it has been planned, but to destroy families, cause a lot of heartaches in families, and things like that.
Is that your opinion?
Sorry?
Is that your opinion?
No, that's not my opinion. I deal with people. I've dealt with people that have done this. You know, it's one, you know, you could go and you can get something done and say, okay, the abortion is,
Okay.
or anything.
Pastor, with all due respect, because we're not going to be here all night, and we're not going to solve that issue
All right.
that you're addressing. So if you could speak your comments, let's get through it, because
Okay.
we know where you feel about it, and I want to give you your time to speak, but
Okay.
we're not going to fix that issue tonight.
Well, he was just asking
I
a
understand,
question.
I understand.
Okay. Well, I mean, once again, I mean, I would ask the commission, I would ask you and the commissioners here to reconsider and resend the monies that this organization has said that they would give them, because I don't think it would put a good outlook onto the city. I don't think we need that kind of reputation. We're supposedly a family-oriented city, and we want the best for our children. If I'm not mistaken, in 2010, there's going to be another census taking. And I guarantee you, every elected official is going to say the census is wrong, that we're missing so many people. The people that we're missing is because you've allowed money to go to Planned Parenthood, and those babies wasn't born, and that's why they wasn't counted into the census. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. This is a public hearing.
I'd move to close.
Motion to close by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Atkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Very much.
Item 9.
Item 9.
Item 9, consideration and action on resolution number 2007-021 to authorize the submission of an application and agreement to certify for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Section 108 Loan Guarantee Program.
Honorable Mayor and City Commission, tonight, what we're asking is for your permission to prepare an application to HUD for a Section 108 loan. Basically, the final application will come before you for your approval, but these are the proposed projects that we will be taking a look at and asking HUD for approximately $1.9 million, and this would be for the purchase of land and building, park development, Market Square renovation and surrounding properties, and an affordable housing facade revolving loan program. The Section 108 loan program has been taken advantage in previous years by the city. One was the Planning Department building at the Peace, that was a Section 108 loan, and also the Lopez Supermarket on Southmost many years ago. So with your permission and your approval of this resolution, we would prepare that application.
Mayor, based on the information presented to us earlier, I'd move to approve this item.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 10.
Item 10, consideration and action on resolution number 2007-022 to express support of the Texas Department of Transportation's proposal to realign Farm Road 511 between Old Port Isabel Road and State Highway 48 and designated as a state spur roadway, which will be assigned a number by the TxDOT's Transportation Planning and Programming Division.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, this is just a request from TxDOT. It's just basically a formality where they're going to construct this new roadway. They just want the city to acknowledge that. We recommend approval.
Well, they need our resolution. Yeah.
Yes.
Move to acknowledge and approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Arroyo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 11.
Item 11, consideration and action on resolution number 2007-023 to authorize the city manager to file a grant application with the Texas Department of Transportation for funding under the Job Access and Reverse Commute Program.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. The intent of the Job Access Reverse Commute Program is for public transportation projects that promote the availability of public transportation services targeted to employment and employment-related transportation needs. In April 2006, BUS submitted a proposal to TxDOT for JARC funding. The following August, the Texas Transportation Commission approved a minute order awarding funding for JARC projects, including the proposal submitted by BUS. In January, the agreement with TxDOT for the grant became fully executed, and since then, BUS has begun implementing the new services included in this proposal. TxDOT has now issued a new request for proposals for JARC projects. BUS is requesting authorizations to submit a proposal for funding to conduct a formal evaluation of the JARC services that have been and will be implemented under the previous grant. BUS has approached the Institute Research and Planning Office of the University of Texas at Brownsville to discuss this project. While no formal agreement has been made with the office at this time, they offered the availability of their services for evaluating the routes and were receptive to the idea of participating in the cost share of the project by counting their billable hours as in-kind match for this grant. So we're asking your authorization to allow us to apply for the grant. There will be no financial request.
Not yet, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner Arroyo,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Atkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, Norma. Item 12.
Item 12, consideration and action on resolution number 2007-024 to authorize the city manager to file a grant application with the Federal Transit Administration for funding for the multimodal terminal facility project.
On March 23rd, 2007, a solicitation of grant applications was published in the Federal Register for the discretionary funds available in fiscal year 2007 for the Federal Transit Administration bus and bus facility programs. One of the priority areas that was listed in this grant program is intermodal terminal projects that include intercity bus providers. BUS would like to submit a proposal requesting grant funds to complete the development of the multimodal terminal project. The grant will provide up to 80% of the net project capital costs. BUS is requesting authorization to submit a proposal for $13,600,000, the balance of the federal amount needed to develop the terminal based on the most recent estimates. The city's match for the project has already been authorized by the City Commission. It includes the certificate of obligation bonds issued in 2006 and authorized in 2007. It also includes in-kind match that has been contributed by the city.
Norma, would you tell the viewing audience how this came about?
When we went up to Washington last month, last month,
In March.
in March, okay, where am I? Yeah, in March, the delegation that went representing Brownsville visited the offices of our legislators, and we were advised of the availability of earmark funds that were available that had not been funded, and were told that we would be eligible to apply under that project. And a few weeks later, we got a phone call telling us that we were eligible to apply and that they would all be supportive, send us a letter of support for our project.
So as a result of the trip, we became aware of this particular project and funds that would be of great benefit to this project that we weren't aware of before.
Right.
All right. This is an action item. Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner Camarillo, seconded by Commissioner Arroyo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with this one. Item 13.
Item 13, consideration and action to accept a grant from the Texas Department of Transportation for funding under the Intercity Bus Program.
In May 2006, BUS submitted a grant proposal for the Texas Department of Transportation in response to a request for proposals for projects to develop, promote, or support intercity bus mobility. BUS requested $400,000 in grant funding for the multimodal terminal project. In December 2006, TxDOT notified BUS that the proposal has been selected for funding. Between December 2006 and March 2007, BUS has worked with TxDOT to finalize the scope of the grant. The grant funds are federal dollars that are administered by TxDOT. There is a 20% match requirement. The match for this grant will be provided through a 2006 project agreement with the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation for $100,000. We're just asking to allow us to accept this grant.
This is an action item. Motion to approve by Commissioner Camarillo,
Second?
seconded by Commissioner Arroyo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 14.
Item
Thank you.
14, consideration and action to acknowledge the city's comprehensive annual financial report and single audit report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2006.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, the comprehensive annual financial report and the single audit report were completed in March, and this is for the period ending fiscal year 2006. Mr. Carlos Barrera with the firm of Long Chilton will make this presentation to you.
Honorable Mayor, members of the commission, I realize you have a fairly long agenda, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible.
I knew you would.
I know. The last thing you need to hear is a long-winded CPA talking up here, but let me tell you real quick.
I live with one.
Another one anyway. This is, let me just real quick. This is the really nice cover, by the way, if you haven't seen it already, the actual CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And it's divided into 7 sections. And so in those 7 sections, if you look at the table of contents, which it comes at the beginning, the section that we basically opine on is the introductory section, or I'm sorry, the financial section, which is in effect our auditor's report and the basic financial statements, which we have done so. In the section right beginning on page 3, which is the introduction section, the introductory section that Pete has provided, you look on the bottom, it says what the goal of the independent audit is, because a lot of people don't realize what we do or why we do it. And so in effect, it was to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements of the city are free of material misstatement. And we've done so. And as a result, you've got an unqualified opinion. And that unqualified opinion is a little bit further in the financial section, which we'll get to in a minute. The introductory section is followed in effect by the financial section, which you will see our auditor's opinion, as well as last year's GFOA Certificate of Excellence. And so you've got that as well, and we've applied for it again this year, and that's why the report has to be issued by March 31st. The MD&A, which is the only part I'm going to discuss here, is the management discussion analysis. This is something that Pete and the accounting group, or your financial finance department, puts together. It takes all of the data and the rest of the 100 and some odd 200 and some odd pages that are in there, and puts it into layman's terms. And if you read this, the financial highlights, you'll see there are 4 bullet points. 1, the assets of the city exceeded its liabilities by $401 million. The majority of that this last year comes from the fact that you've completed the inventory of all your fixed assets. So that caused it to increase quite a bit. The second, probably the most noticeable, is the fund balance of the general fund increased by $2.8 million. And so you see you have an ending fund balance this year of $18.3 million as opposed to $15.4 the prior year. You also see, for example, that on the last bullet point, on March 23rd, you issued $9.3 million in GO, public improvement and refunding bonds, and $10.5 in the combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation. Those are the 4 major bullet points. Flipping real quick, and I'm just going to take you real quick to the 2 areas I want to talk about, page 38 and page 39. If you look, everybody talks about the general fund, because that's basically what you're talking about when you say, how much money do we have? And of course, you have a lot of funds in the city, but the general fund is basically the one that you all are most concerned with. Exhibit 8 shows the fiscal years from 1993 to 2006. And for a lot of us here, a lot of the people that have been around Brownsville quite a while, all of you up there, $3.7 million in fund balance, unrestricted fund balance in effect, back in 1993, and now it's $18.3 million. Okay? That's a very healthy increase. But also keep in mind that $18.3 million covers about 90 days of operation, because it's about a $72 million expense on an annual basis just on the general fund side. So you're 90 days out. So if some calamity happened in the city of Brownsville, God forbid, and you didn't collect 1 penny of sales tax, property tax, or any kind of fines and fees or whatever, you've got 90 days.
That's basically what you got. And you just can't stop a train. Those expenses continue to go, law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's important. The second part is Exhibit 9. And Exhibit 9 is the recap, in effect, from one year to the next with respect to the general fund of revenues and expenditures. And it just summarizes. You can see the property taxes at 14 million, up from the prior year. Sales taxes at 22, again, up from the prior year. Both healthy increases of 10 and 15% respectively. Fees and services, another one, 13 million, up 6%. And surplus funds from the Brownsville PUB at 6 million. That's also, that's actually went down, but there's where the formula read last year, you'll see a change in the current year. But other than that, you have $75 million in total revenues, and you'll see all the way down, you'll see all your expenditures for general government, public safety at 41.9 million, public works, et cetera. And go all the way down, you'll see net change in fund balance, 2.8 million. That's the net change that we were talking about before. That's the increase in the current year. Lastly, coming to the actual financial statements. And of course, the rest of the MD&A is chock full of wonderful information that for readers of this kind of stuff that like it, they just relish it at night. And if you can't fall asleep, it definitely will put you there. But if you turn to page 63, which is in effect the statement of activities, that's the income statement, and it's a city-wide, a fund-wide financial statement. This takes care of everything of the city on an accrual basis, and that means basically if you have a business, that's usually the way it works. And you can see the primary government, the business type activities on the left, the expenses associated with that. If you just go to the middle of that, you'll see $119,962,000. That's the amount of money needed to run the city of Brownsville, okay? Strictly on an income statement type basis. And where does that come from? For example, how do you pay for it? Well, you pay for it with the following three columns. You pay for it from services that you charge of 42 million, operating grants and contributions of 21, and capital grants and contributions of 4. So that still leaves 52 million that you're short. And you've got your business type activities, your golf courses, things of that nature that provide another million, and you end up with 51 million. So you still need 51 million to finish out running the city. And where does that come from? And then you'd go straight down the line. You can see you get it from property taxes, 27 million, sales taxes, 22 million. You can see where I'm coming on the bottom of the page here. And this is everything from the city. This is all funds all the way across. The only thing this doesn't take into consideration is, for example, what happens, where do you get the money to pay for the bonds, which is another 6 to 7 million. Well, consider this is an income statement that was developed to allow the reader to look at it as a business. You've got depreciation on these assets that you have. Well, that's a non-cash expense. You use that to pay for your bonds. All that kind of information, you go further back into the rest of the financial statements, which are all the different funds, general fund, and et cetera, all the way through. And those will give it to you based upon the old ways to look at it. And it shows you basically how your cash flow is. Needless to say, the city finds itself in a healthy position. And it continues to find itself in healthy positions, good growth, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we should be proud of that. Further down, you see component units. That's part of your report. That's the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, the GBIC, et cetera. That also has the financial statements involved in there. And then there's the statistical section, which more and more, it becomes more and more critical if you analyze the financial statements of a city or any enterprise, just exactly where are you, where have you been, where are you going with respect to your bonded debt, et cetera, et cetera. The other two reports that you probably have been given are these two. One of them is the report with respect to the single audit. This is federal and state compliance. More and more auditors are spending probably 80% of our time just in this and not in this. The reason for it is because when you get grants like CDBG and home, et cetera, the amount of work involved just to make sure that you are compliant with their rules and regulations is pretty substantial. There are some findings that we had in here. We had 5 findings that are addressed, and their responses by the city are in there with respect to corrective measures. None of the findings involved any kind of question cost, which means that we would have questioned the cost and possibly a refund to the government. And then also, there's an advisory comment report as well. There are about 3 items in there that we've commented on, as well as the city's response to that. That's it. 3 minutes, 4 minutes? think I've got you out.
Real quick, while he's passing this out, Ms. Barrera, the fund balance, at the end of '05 was 12 or 15 million?
Let's see, I get you.
On page 39.
Page 39. On page, well, no, look on page 38. I think you're looking at the wrong page. Page 38, you'll see 2005 at 15.4 million.
So, okay.
And now you see 18.3.
All right, so from '04 to '06, it went up 6 million, almost 50% of the fund balance.
6.3 million.
Okay, thank you.
If there's any questions on this, I mean, I'll be more than glad to meet with you individually, collectively.
Anybody
with
needs
respect
help
to
going to
review.
sleep tonight, just call Carlos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the,
Thank you.
for the work. All right, Pete.
The schedule that I passed out to you regarding property tax rates, if you look at that schedule that I just presented, 1985, because I know that we always keep saying our tax rate, what the tax rate for the city is. And this schedule compares not only the city, but other taxing entities within the city, such as the school district, Cameron County Navigation District, Texas Southmost College, UTB, South Texas Independent School District. And this schedule gives you by years. Look at the city of Brownsville. 1985, the tax rate was 75.05 cents per $100 valuation. Look at 2006 tax year, which is fiscal year 2007. The tax rate 65.0235. That's a 10 cents decrease that the city of Brownsville has given the taxpayers in the city. If you look at other taxing entities.
All of them have gone up.
Yes. Also, on page of the report,
Enough.
page 52 and 53 of the report, because I know that this keeps coming up on a regular basis regarding streets and drainage. The city of Brownsville in 2006 fiscal year spent $12.4 billion in streets and drainage projects. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez. This is an action item.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Roy, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
Just want to say something real quick, Mayor. I just want to thank the city of Brownsville, Public Works, David Ivory, and Lastra, all the people at the city that are working hard to get these streets done. You know, there's a perception out there in the city that we're not doing what we need to be doing. But the citizens of Brownsville need to know that we've paved more in 5 years than we have in 30 years. We've paved more in 6 months than we've paid in a long time. So I appreciate the job y'all are doing. I know y'all are getting a bad rap in the paper with Brownsville Herald, and I apologize for that. But I know y'all are doing a good job, and some of these people from the Herald need to come right along with me and Rick and Public Works Director, David Ivory, when we go out there and check out the streets. And I'm sure there's a lot of streets that need to be addressed, but we're getting to them. You know, we're gonna get the streets done. It just takes time, and we got the right people to do it, and we'll get there.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item 15.
Item 15, consideration and action to authorize a supplemental agreement number 1 to amendment number 15 with the HNTB in the amount of $49,805 for additional construction observation services on the general aviation infrastructure project.
Mayor, members of the commission, the city commission is asked to approve this agreement that has to do with the general aviation infrastructure project. The project created 2 new hangar pad sites at the airport, upon which we are proposing to build 2 new hangars. The approval of the amendment will allow us to complete the project financing and close out the grant that financed it from the FAA. I would also note to you the picture that is reflected up there indicates on the upper right-hand side where the hangar pad sites are, as well as the ramp area that was improved with the project. I'll be happy to address any questions.
The construction period was supposed to be 90 with an additional 10 days. It ended up being 212 days.
Right.
Why?
Because a cable was found that had not been located by the FAA as a part of the original project construction. Also, we had to do more extensive work having to do with PUB and the utilities.
Who didn't find the cable the first time?
That was the FAA.
Oh, okay. Well, the FAA is paying for this.
That's correct.
All right. This is an action item.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Arroyo,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, 16.
Item 16, consideration and action to authorize final payment and release of retainage for the Drainage Improvement Phase 3 at Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport.
The City Commission is asked to authorize that final payment as well as release of retainage on a major drainage improvement project at the airport. This project resulted in the construction of a dam with a gate in a drainage ditch that connects to the North Main drainage ditch on the south side of the airport. The photograph that's up there illustrates how important this is. The North Main drainage ditch of the city runs parallel to the south property line of the airport along California Road and carries a great deal of drainage water from all the way on the west side of Brownsville. Prior to the construction of this feature, what would take place in periods of high drainage water in that ditch is that drainage water would backflood into the airport and consequently created additional drainage problems that had to be dealt with at the airport. The construction of that dam facility as well as a gate prevented that from happening. And in reality, on a Friday before the most recent rainfall, the project was physically completed and the valve tested. And then Monday morning, the electricity was hooked up for the various different switches. And Monday afternoon, it started to rain. And by Tuesday, with the photograph that was just up there, that shows you how that valve and that dam prevented water from the North Main drainage system from backflooding into the airport. I would also note to you that was not done with federal funds. That was done with city money that was allocated some time ago for improvements at the airport.
All right. This is an action item.
To approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Camarillo,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Item 17.
Item 17, consideration and action to authorize a project agreement between the City of Brownsville and the United Baseball League.
Mayor, members of the City Commission, for some time there has been discussion between ourselves and the United Baseball League about an agreement that would allow them to construct a multi-use ballpark complex here within our city. I'd like to describe to you the terms of a proposed agreement and for your consideration, and also Mr. Bradley Went is here if you have any additional questions or need additional information from him. The agreement would provide that there would be a multi-use community ballpark complex constructed on city property located at Alton Glore near 802, where there's currently some bike trails located. The ballpark complex would not in any way interfere with the bicycle trails that are now there, and which I think are being used a lot and have been very popular. The complex itself would allow there to be a baseball team that would play in a league. The proposed name for the team would be the Brownsville Chatos. They would play in the United League, other teams from our area. It would also be, the stadium itself would also be available to the city as an entity as well as the school district, and depending on what arrangements could be made with the college for their games as well. The development would also include other commercial developments adjacent to the ballpark complex, and those would also be paid for by the United Baseball League. The concern that has been expressed leading up to this proposed agreement has been that the city be assured that they would in no way be responsible or in any way indebted for the amount of debt that's incurred for the construction and the maintenance and the operation of the complex, and the proposed agreement would ensure that that was the arrangement. If approved, this agreement would provide that the United Baseball League would be solely responsible for and would assume full responsibility for the construction, maintenance, and operating costs of the multi-use baseball, or rather ballpark complex, And in turn, the revenues that were generated from that construction and from that, the operation of that facility would then be remitted to them to repay the amount of debt that they incurred for the construction. There would be a specific provision added to the draft agreement that would state that the city and United Sports will enter into an agreement whereby all fees, taxes, and assessments levied or assessed by the city within the boundaries of the multi-use baseball complex shall be reimbursed to United Sports not to exceed the pre-approved amount of debt incurred by United Baseball League for construction of a multi-use ballpark complex. And assuming that this agreement is approved by this body, it would then go to the board of directors and whatever executive officers of the United Baseball League for their approval, and they would have to agree to that language as well. But the idea behind it is that they would incur whatever costs or debt was required to construct and to maintain the facility, and that the revenues and fees and so forth that were generated from the operation of the facility would come through the city, but would be remitted back to them.
All of it?
Up to the amount of their debt.
All of it?
All of it. Up
For
to
how many years?
only until they're repaid.
What's the timeline?
That amount and that time period would have to be pre-approved by the city commission in the language that I'm proposing tonight. It would be an amount and a time period that would be known to you prior to entering into the final reimbursement agreement. That's the kind of the overview of the proposal that's been made and the terms of the draft agreement that we've discussed. But Mr. Wentz here as well, if you have any other.
There were some suggestions made with regards to some terms to clarify some of the questions or concerns. Are you going to be able to get that done if we approve this agreement tonight?
Well, certainly there's
with those changes or proposals?
I believe so. There's no disagreement between ourselves, or myself as spokesperson for the city, and and between ourselves and Mr. Wendt. We've discussed the terms, and in fact, I think that the modifying language that I just proposed to you is what we had intended in concept all along. It just hadn't been spelled out in the agreement, and he certainly can speak for himself. But I believe that that's the type of arrangement that we had both envisioned all along.
But in any case, we could probably rescind, right? If you don't get the things clarified, you need clarified, right?
Well,
Jim, basically what it is, Jim, is we're not against an agreement. We're for an agreement, to reach the agreement. But unfortunately, you presented us with a document earlier that we saw for the first time today, and we had questions. Luckily, those were answered. But we don't want to go into an agreement or we don't want to sign something until, well, not that we don't want, we'll sign it if it's beneficial to the city, but you need to get us that language and those documents well ahead of time, not an hour before city commission and expect an approval. So if you would, please, when you reach this agreement, which we are in favor of, but before we reach our final agreement and before we sign a contract, I would like to have that information ahead of time to be able to review and to have any questions answered. You know, not just have them answered an hour before we're required to take action.
I'll be happy to prepare the documents and to provide them to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Well, I would move to approve with the condition that we clarify what we need to clarify and the agreement of that agreement.
I'll second
Those
your motion.
terms. We have a motion to approve contingent upon the clarification of those questions and conditions that have been discussed and raised by Commissioner Atkinson, seconded by Commissioner Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, good luck. Item 18.
Item 18, consideration and action to approve bids received at the November 7th, 2006 tax resale and resolutions for Lot 10, Block 3 of Lakewood Terrace Addition, Lot 4, Block 5 of La Lomita Subdivision, Section 2, and South 1/2 Lot 5 of Hunter Subdivision, all in Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas.
Mayor, I was requested earlier in the week to place this item on the agenda for your consideration. The subject properties that are described in items 18 and 19, I believe, were initially sold in auction, or rather put up for sale in auction in November 7th of '06, and either the amount was inadequate or there wasn't an adequate bid to begin with, and they were put up again for auction on March 6th of '07. There's a representative here, I think, from Mr. Linebarger's firm, who can describe it to you, or I have the amount and the details for the subject properties, if you'd like
This
to
is
hear
what
that.
was in the, in our packet of information,
Yes,
each
sir, that's
property,
right.
okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Barrera. I'm an attorney here on behalf of Linebarger. I believe we have provided you, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the packet of
Let me stop you real quick, Jennifer. Is item 19 basically the same thing? Or do we need to, can we do them together, or do we need to do them separate?
I believe we need to do them separate
Okay.
because they're two separate dates.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay. There are several properties on the agenda. The first one is the tax resale for November 7th, 2006.
And those are the properties included here, right, on item 18?
Yes.
All right. And you're asking us to approve.
Well, it's your decision whether or not to approve. I'm just here to answer any questions you may have regarding the bid.
All right.
I move to approve.
No questions.
No, sir.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 19.
Item 19, consideration and action to approve bids received at the March 6, 2007 tax resale, and resolutions for Tract 1, Lot 9, Block 4 of El Valle subdivision, Tract 2, building only, situated on Lot 9, Block 4 of El Valle subdivision, .143 acre, more or less, situated in a portion of Block 207 and 208 of El Jardín subdivision, Espiritu Santo Grant, Share 19, Tract 1, Lot 13, Block 1 of Hacienda Gardens subdivision, Tract 2, Lot 14, Block 1 of Hacienda Gardens subdivision, Lot 9, Block 3 of Portway Acres, first section, and the east half of Lots 285 and 286 of Colonia Victoria, addition, all in Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas.
Same thing, right?
It's the same thing. These are just different tracts of properties, and it's your discretion whether or not you're going to accept the
Done on a
bids.
different date, right?
Yes, this
Okay.
is from the March resale.
All right.
To approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, second by Commissioner Atkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Sure, and we've also submitted the resolutions and the deeds for your signature, and you can get that to us at your convenience. Thank you.
What was your name again?
Jennifer Barrera.
Thank you.
Item 20.
Item 20, consideration and action to award a contract for public transit advertising sales and placement services for the Brownsville Urban Systems Bus Stop Shelter and Benches.
Our Mayor, Commissioners, at the request of our Bus Department Director Norma Zamora, the Purchasing Department solicited formal sealed proposals for this project. It is the intent of the city to seek an advertising sales firm to administer and carry out the day-to-day functions associated with the citywide benches, shelters, and the Northside Transfer Station advertising display kiosk in order to provide revenue-generating transit advertising services. Bus expects the successful contractor to coordinate all approved forms of advertising during the term of this project. Just to refresh your memories, what we're talking about here are the shelters that we have throughout the city. Some of them are elaborate, some of them are a little bit more simple, but most of them do have the display kiosk. And there are also some display kiosks now at the Northside Transfer Center. Sealed proposals were received for this project on February 28th. An evaluation committee was formed consisting of bus department staff as well as finance department representation as well as our city's internal auditor. A total of 3 proposals were received and distributed to the evaluation committee for review. After the evaluation committee members submitted their forms, the purchasing department tabulated the scores. The evaluation criteria score sheet is attached to your agenda item this evening for your review. As a result of this process, the highest ranked firm was determined. This is in keeping with the request for proposals procedures. The firm, Hachar Bus Ads, was invited to attend an interview meeting on Tuesday, April 17th. Subsequent to the interview meeting, contract negotiations were initiated with Hachar Bus Ads to result in the contract we bring before you this evening. The proposed contract is attached for your consideration and action. During the initial term of the contract, the contractor shall be paying the bus 40% gross advertising revenue as a commission. This will be for all of the advertising space on the citywide shelters and benches. Each year, the agreement is in accordance with our proposal. Bus revenue for the first year of the contract, based upon the minimum guarantee, is $60,000 or some $5,000 a month, whether they sell any ads or not. That's the minimum guarantee. At maximum occupancy of all the displays and all of the benches, which is something new that we will be incorporating in this contract, the benches, bus stands to realize as much as $11,888 a month, or $142,656 yearly, projected at maximum revenue potential.
Does that go to bus or does it go to the?
Well, it goes through bus to the general fund. Bus can accumulate that money to use as a local match. And as you know, Commissioner, for every $2 that bus generates, that's matched by the federal government for $8 for capital projects.
I did not know that.
$3 additional dollars,
I didn't know that.
or $3 additional dollars for operating expenses. So it is very important that bus maximize all potential revenues that they can. Based on the successful negotiations with the proposed firm, staff recommends the award of a contract for public transit advertising sales and placement services for the Brownsville urban system, bus stop shelter and benches to Hachar Bus Ads of Laredo, Texas. Gentlemen, principals of Hachar Bus Ads are in the audience this evening if you have any particular questions. We did check references with Laredo and have nothing negative to report to this commission.
How many other contracts do they have?
The contract that we were most interested in, because it closely approximated us, was the city of Laredo. I'm not familiar with other contracts. Perhaps they can address that.
Excuse me?
I say I don't know the total quantity of their contracts. The one we were most interested in was the city of Laredo because it approximated our contract.
Was a presentation done by each of the proposals?
No. The presentation was done by the firm that scored the highest on the evaluations.
Why not hear the presentation of each one of those that submitted a packet?
Well, the other firm was an incumbent firm, and we're familiar with their activity during the past 5 years. So there would really be not too much that they could present to us.
Mr. Calava, what's the deal behind RFPs and not being able to go as a local vendor preference? What's the deal behind RFPs and utilizing the local vendor?
Well, first of all, the city's not spending any money on this. This is a revenue-generating contract, so the local preference doesn't apply. Local preference is designed to stimulate economic activity in the community and is used for bids. Requests for proposals in all cases are always negotiated contracts.
So because the city's not spending anything,
There
that's
is
why
not a
we-
local preference statute that would apply in this instance, Commissioner.
but if we look at the whole bus system, and we do have to go in and subsidize some of the amount that bus can't pick up, you can't consider that as that's city money that gets applied as a match in some way? Or since we're just talking about shelters, that doesn't apply?
No, we're looking at maximizing revenue, and so the firm that we're bringing before you this evening with our recommendation has the highest maximum revenue potential of the proposals which we received. The competing firm submitted 15%.
What was utilized in making the evaluation? Since all we saw was your all's scoring, what was seen in the evaluation process, and what was the basis for it?
Pretty much it's the experience that the firms have, how long they've been in business, things like that. This particular proposal was heavily weighted towards the revenue potential. And so it was the largest scoring item in the evaluation.
Were negotiations undertaken with both?
Negotiations were in keeping with the RFP process, Mayor, were undertaken only with the highest ranked firm.
Wasn't that part of the contract, though? The past contract, and I don't know if there was a clause specifically that talked about that there's a negotiation aspect of it. Am I wrong on that, Mr. Calava?
I don't recall that, Commissioner. I don't think that was in there, and that contract expired. It was originally for a 3-year term, and then it had 2 one-year option terms. All of those years were used by the incumbent, so we really had no ability to negotiate an extension of that contract. Remember, please, that we were governed by FTA regulations on this.
Let me ask you something. 20, 21, and 22 was that all negotiated together? Why are they separate or what?
You're talking about item numbers? Item number
Item
20?
numbers 20, 21, 22, that's,
22 is a construction contract. It's an extension of the Carter Burgess contract. Has nothing to
That
do
has
with
nothing to do with this.
has nothing to do with that?
21 is a separate contract. It is for advertising
Yeah.
in the buses and on the buses. This is a new service that has not been solicited in the past.
Okay. Okay. But 21 got the same, the contractors for 20 are the same ones who got 21?
Our recommendation to you this evening will be for the same firms based on the evaluations, which are based on the amount of revenue or monies in terms of commissions that have been offered to the city of Brownsville and bus.
Mr.
I'm
Colapo.
sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just had a question. I guess I generally like to see our local businesses helped a little bit. And I know whenever we've had bids from car dealers, there's a 5 or 10%
Right, the local
leeway.
preference, yes, ma'am.
Is that applicable here at all?
Again, as I was explaining to Commissioner Camarillo, this is a revenue contract. This is not monies that the city is paying out. The local preference is intended for when the city pays money out, if that money can circulate down, tax dollars can circulate down within the economy of the city, and if we determine that it's feasible and that it's creating a positive economic impact, then we bring that to you for a recommendation. This is money that's coming out of the
I
community, out of
understand.
the advertisers and into the city's tills. So
See,
our only
So
option
there's no
here-
real incentive then to retain a local company over and out of town?
Only if they would offer us more money. This is strictly driven as a business.
But how would they do that if they weren't able to negotiate?
You're talking about the second-ranked firm not being able to negotiate? We have no mechanism, Commissioner, in the RFP process.
I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I don't,
Yes, and I'm trying to explain to you.
okay, 'cause I was supposed to meet with you so you can explain all this to me. Apologize we didn't get together, but I just don't know how it works.
Okay. Well, the RFP process works that you receive proposals and you turn them over to a committee and they rank them based on the published criteria that's in the RFP, and that's what we did. And the firm that we're bringing before you this evening scored the highest, and they scored the highest because they met all of the conditions of the RFP, but more importantly, they offered us more than 2.5 times the revenue of the incumbent firm.
Now, did that happen
That
during the
wasn't- that wasn't-
negotiation?
yeah.
Did that happen during the negotiation?
That
Where the offer
happened-
was made?
No, that happened during the submission of
Oh, the-
proposals.
Okay.
There was no dollar amounts changed during the negotiation, only the terms of the contract and how the contract would work. The dollar amounts remain the same, sir.
What was the original deadline for the RFP?
Just one moment, Mayor.
And the next question would be, when was it extended to?
The legal advertisement appeared in the Brownsville Herald on January 14th and January 21st. All 5 advertising agencies on the vendor list were mailed requests for proposals. We held a pre-proposal meeting on January the 31st, and then the sealed proposals were received on February 28th.
Was that the original deadline of the
No,
28th?
I think we extended it 1 week, and that was strictly at at my own staff's request. That was not generated from
And
any.
then the deadline was the 28th of February.
That's correct.
And the evaluation took place on a month later, March 22nd.
That is correct.
Any particular reason why it took almost 3 weeks afterwards?
No, but that's not different from our
That's
normal
standard.
operating time
Okay.
frame. There's just other projects going on all the time.
This contract is for 5 years or 3 years, like the previous contract?
Commissioner, this contract has a base period of 5 years, and it has 2 3-year renewal options. When the first contract was let back in 1999, 2000, FTA regulations allowed for a maximum of 5 years on all contracts. During 2002, they relaxed those regulations, and they now require 5 years only on rolling stock contracts, the purchase of buses and so forth. Service contracts are left at the local discretion. The reason that we went for a 5-year with the 2 3-year options is, as I explained earlier, One of the things that we're doing in this contract is we are requiring that the contractor provide benches for our patrons of bus to have a place to sit at the bus stops. We are requiring 50 new benches every year. So over the life of this contract, the first 5-year term, you will see 250 benches in Brownsville. Those benches will have advertising on them. I'm sure you've seen that in other cities. We will generate revenue from that. The reason for doing the contract for such a long term is to maximize our revenue potential, because after the 5-year period, the percentages increase for the 3 years, and then they increase again the following 3 years.
Mayor, I have one last question. Mr. Calapa, as you said, the incumbent, they were doing this on a month-by-month basis. But when they go out and they go sell advertising, they didn't go and sell advertising for 1 month or so. They've got if they had a number of contracts that work for a year, and those companies already paid for that year, by the looks of the proposal and the resolution, we're asking that as of June 1st, all of that ceases.
That's a good question. Let me explain
What
how that-
happens to them?
Let me explain to you how that works, Commissioner. When the contract came to its expiration date, Rio Shelters was sent a letter by the city advising them that the contract had reached its normal termination and that they would be going on a month-to-month basis. So they were fully aware of that was the situation. Every time a new contract is entered into by Rio Shelters, they have to make the city aware of that contract as well as the terms of that contract, and then they have to start paying commissions against that advertising revenue. So we have a good handle on what contracts are out there right now and what their terms are. We certainly have the ability to work with Rio Shelters as well as in our negotiations with Bus Ads. Bus Ads has agreed to allow the terms of those contracts to run their natural course and the revenue from those contracts to continue to flow to Rio Shelters.
Let me ask you
Why
something real
can't we
quick.
extend it? Why
Hold
can't
on,
they wait till the end of the year?
Well,
And
that's what
let
we're
them
saying.
fulfill, no, but you're saying for bus ads, not for real shelters.
No,
Why
Bus
can't
Ads has agreed, sir, to allow Rio Shelters contracts to run their natural course. In other words, they will respect the fact that those ads are in displays, in the kiosks. They will not receive revenue from those ads, nor will they be able to use those display cases because Rio Shelters will have their ads in them.
But that
So
isn't-
to answer your question, there is not a negative impact to Rio Shelters as a result of this, even though the contract terms clearly stipulate that at the termination of the contract, those contracts then become the property of the city of Brownsville.
But let me ask you something real quick. As somebody who, in my business, I do advertisements. And I went out there and hustled and talked to people and got these contracts. And I signed some of them for the whole year. They're signed for the year already. You're telling me that somebody's gonna come, say I don't get the bid, but all my contracts that I worked hard to get just go to somebody else now? I mean, explain to me. I really just don't understand how it works, and I'm telling you from my perspective, from my business, that I don't think it would be fair that I want to go, I have a lot of clients, and then they're just going to be pushed to somebody else
Well,
after I worked hard and established myself?
I would assume that during your hard work in establishing yourself, that when you entered into a contract hypothetically with the city of Brownsville, you would have read the terms and conditions of that contract.
Okay, let me ask you something. How many contracts from the incumbent are still left over for, that going to go past the year?
I would say probably somewhere around 5, maybe 10 at the most.
Do you know for sure how many?
We have the information. I do not have it in front of me, but I have seen it. It's not that many.
Well, based on that information, and we don't have the numbers, and I would like
Commissioner,
to table this.
it's not a material amount, and again, the recommended contractors are willing to let those contracts expire and let Rio Shelters receive the benefit of the revenue from those contracts. Norma has brought this up to me. Let me put it on the projector, and so we do have the information.
All right, good.
Now, as you can see, those are all of the contracts that are in
Can you lower
place
the lights, please?
now. If you'll see, there are dates when those contracts were originated. And you can see next to it the term of those contracts. So the ones that have the little pencil check marks on them right now are the ones that are in place right now. So I said maybe 5 to 10, it looks like there's 4. These others, you can see the dates that they were started, and you can see the term of those contracts. So we're not talking about anything here that's going to be a material gain or loss to any particular entity. As a matter of fact, during the life of the contract that's now expired, we've had, in terms of revenue, the highest month we ever had was just under $2,700 in revenue. Over the 80-some-odd months that this contract has been in place, the city has received an average of $1,800 a month in revenue. The guaranteed now in the Rio Shelter's proposal was the same offer that was made 5 years ago during the first contract, 15%. However, they have now offered a minimum guarantee of $3,000 a month against the competing firm of Bus Ads, $5,000 a month minimum guarantee against 40% revenue. So apparently the firm of Bus Ads, with their experience in their other contracts, feels like there's much more revenue potential in the city of Brownsville than what we've seen or what's in place or what is projected to be by Rio Shelter. So, you know, it's a pretty straightforward conclusion. Anyone that would make a good business decision would bring before you this evening the proposals that we brought before you.
But let me ask one more question. It's probably a dumb question. These people, if they're promising more revenues, how are you going to go back to all these people? You're going to bottom line them and say it's going to be this much higher now when they've been paying? These are all local businesses.
Right. That's a
Wait,
good
let me
question.
finish
I'm
talking.
glad-
Let me finish.
I'm sorry, sir.
This is local businesses. And you're going to go back to all of them who have been honorably, you know, paying to be on, to advertise in the city. You're going to go back to generate what they're going to generate. They're going to go back and tell them this is what it's, or they're going to look for other advertisements outside of Brownsville.
Yes.
So we may be seeing something from city of San Antonio. If they want to pay to be on the bus, we're going to come to New York or come to Harlingen. Is that what we're going to do, or how does it work?
Well, I'm trying to understand where you're going with your question, but to answer your question, sir, Bus Ads, both firms had to submit their rate cards as part of their proposals. It's curious that Bus Ads will be charging less to the advertisers than Rio Shelter, but will be offering us more revenue. I hope that answers your question.
Say that again?
Bus Ads will be, per their rate cards, charging the advertisers less money, but will be paying the city a higher commission rate. Now, we did do the math on that to make sure that in pure dollars, the resultant dollar revenue stream to the city of Brownsville would be higher, and it is. We compared the rate cards of both firms against the percentages of both firms against a fixed number of ads equal for both firms. And the firm that we are recommending to you this evening will present more revenue stream to the city. Now, this firm is established in Laredo. They do have national accounts. They do have statewide accounts. Those are the accounts that they will be soliciting to advertise in Brownsville. What we're interested in here, members of the City Commission and Mayor, is revenue. Whether the company is established in San Antonio or Brownsville is really immaterial, just as when you read your newspaper, you see ads from all over. When you watch television, you see ads from all over, local and national, mostly national because TV ads are very expensive. So this is a revenue generating project.
All right, any other questions? This is an action item.
Would you approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Arroyo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm going to vote nay.
I'm going to abstain.
Motion carries. Next item.
Item 21, consideration and action to award a contract for public transit advertising, sales, and placement services for the Brownsville Urban Systems Bus Transit Fleet.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, At the request of our Bus Department Director, Norma Somoto, the Purchasing Department solicited formal sealed proposals for this project. It's the intent of the City of Brownsville and the Bus Department to seek proposals from qualified contractors to provide the services of an advertising sales firm to administer and carry out the day-to-day functions associated with exterior and interior fleet advertising. The vendor selected to manage the sales and placement of advertising on city bus-owned operated vehicles must demonstrate its ability to manage all tasks related to the requirements of the RFP. These tasks include all client sales, production, or silk screening services, posting and removing advertisements, billing and collecting revenues from clients, and other necessary or customary business practices. BUS expects a successful contractor to handle all approved forms of advertising. This is a new service. There is no incumbent contractor. We solicited proposals for this project. Those proposals were received on February 28th. The same evaluation committee as the previous item reviewed these proposals. After the evaluation committee members submitted their evaluation forms, purchasing tabulated the scores. The evaluation criteria score sheet is attached for your review. As a result of this process, HR Bus Ads was invited to attend an interview meeting on Tuesday, April 17th. Subsequent to the interview meeting, contract negotiations were initiated with HR Bus Ads. As a result of the negotiation process, the recommended vendor and the bus department have reached a satisfactory working agreement. The proposed contract is attached for your consideration and action. The contractor shall pay BUS 50%, 50, of gross advertising revenue for the advertising space on the city transit fleet during each year of the agreement in accordance with the proposal. Bus revenue for the first year of the contract based upon minimum guarantee is $24,000. At peak occupancy of all buses, bus stands to realize as much as $14,400 monthly or $172,800 yearly projected at maximum revenue potential. Based on the successful negotiations with the proposed firm, staff recommends the award of a contract for public transit advertising sales placement services to HR Bus Ads of Laredo, Texas. And on the screen, you see some samples of what these type of ads look like. They're commonly called bus wraps.
Do we have a criteria of what can be put on a bus?
Yes, sir, we do. We've had a criteria in place since we've had advertising for
I thought
the
this was
last
brand
5
new.
years. In the city of Brownsville, you cannot advertise alcohol, you cannot advise tobacco, you cannot advertise sexually explicit type materials. It's pretty vanilla.
Can you advertise another city? Can Laredo come and advertise on these buses?
I suppose if Laredo wanted to come and advertise Laredo.
And shop Laredo, they open up an outlet mall? I mean, is there something there that,
I think that's governed under free trade, probably.
excuse me?
I say that's probably governed under free trade laws, not something that we could administer. We're looking at objectionable type advertising.
I don't think it's any different from when we buy ads in South Padre Island or anywhere else and say, come to Brownsville, come to
Yeah,
South.
but we don't put it on city property.
I'm sure that we're probably
Buses
going to
are
sell
city
some to the
property.
airport that'll say fly Brownsville. Right, Larry?
Any other questions? This is an action item.
Approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? One nay.
Nay.
2 nays. Motion carries. And just for the record, my concern is that this being an RFP, this being a situation where an evaluation was done and negotiations were begun before this commission got to act on it, Paul, and considering the fact that we had a local, that's a concern to me. I understand the basis for it, and I understand that it's a revenue issue, but I think the local company should have been given an opportunity, same as the other one, to negotiate. But if that's, I understand.
Your point is well taken, Mayor. We
All right,
did
next
follow
item,
with,
item 22.
Item 22, consideration and action to award the professional services contract for Phase 3 final design construction document preparation and Phase 4 construction support services for the Brownsville Urban Systems multimodal facility.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, Phase 2 work has proceeded on schedule with 5 of the 13 properties now acquired by BUS in the city of Brownsville. As the Phase 2 site acquisition and relocation assistance is completed, staff recommends the commencement of the final 2 phases of the project. During Phase 3, final design and construction document preparation will be accomplished. Also, Phase 4 will include the solicitation process resulting with the construction manager at risk guaranteed maximum price contract for the construction of the project. It will also encompass construction support services and final project closeout. We have the project manager, Mr. Mike McAnally, who has made presentations before you this evening, and Alan Zreet, the lead transit architect for Carter and Burgess. They will update you on the remaining 2 phases, so should you so desire.
Are there any other questions? I guess you better, if you want to give us a quick update there. Yeah.
Honorable Mayor and Commission, I'm Mike McAnally, Project Manager for Carter and Burgess. It's a pleasure to be presenting to you again. Next slide, please. The multimodal transportation terminal is a 4-phase project. We're now at the end of the first 2 phases. Phase 1 was a feasibility study completed in October of 2003. Phase 2, which we are now completed, is the preliminary planning, environmental clearance, and the financial planning for implementation of the project completed last month, or in March. We are now at the point where we're ready to transition in continuing services for Phase 3 final design and construction documents, and Phase 4 construction services during construction in support of the construction process. I'd like to introduce Alan Zreet, who will do the rest of the presentation. Alan is going to be assuming the responsibility as project manager during the final design process.
Alan, before you speak, I'm going to put some pressure on you. You've got some big shoes to fill. Mike's done a very wonderful job in working with the city over these last several years, so I'm sure you're up to the task, but know that those are big shoes.
Thank you very much. I'm well aware of that. I've been serving as assistant project manager, working with Mike on this for about the last 4 years. So.
Oh, well, then maybe you're the reason why he was doing so well.
No.
Okay, all right.
But where we're going from here, good evening, Mr. Mayor, by the way. We're estimating a 14-month design duration. That is essentially based on the conceptual documents you've seen to date, carrying that through to construction documents, and then staying on board for construction support and construction administration with the help of a local firm, Stanford Knowles Architects, throughout that process. Go to the next slide. Just briefly, I think you've seen this before. This is a rendering of essentially the primary terminal facing Adams Street, the bus facilities in the back, the plaza as part of the project. Go ahead. Overall site plan, the orange area is showing the international bus terminal, waiting area and so forth, international buses over on the International Boulevard side of the site, the Brownsville Urban Systems operation located here, and then parking, pedestrian plaza, filling out the rest of the site. So we'll be in the process of moving into the process of preparing final design documents for this scope of the project. Go ahead. Quick view of the floor plan. The lower level includes primary entries that you saw in the rendering, admin support space, restaurant, retail space, public restrooms, a large waiting area, and then space for all of the transportation operators that will be part of the facility, their operations support space, and so forth. The upper level will be the Brownsville Urban Systems Administration offices. Go ahead. Real briefly on the schedule, as I said earlier, we have a 14-month design duration shown in this block here, broken up into 3 different submittals, a 30% submittal, a 60% submittal, 95%, and 100% documents. Each one of those submittals will go through a review process with the city, go through a quality control process, working with our other consultants as part of that phase. Part of that process will also include assistance in selection of a construction manager, a general contractor, that will be guiding the city through the process. We've been working with Paul and others of the city and determined that this is really the most advantageous way of the city to move ahead with implementation of this project is through a construction manager at risk. The rest of the schedule then shows permitting and then construction for that 17-month duration. Go ahead. Just briefly, we'll also be working with 3 local firms, Amgitech Civil Engineers, again, Stanford Knowles Architects, and Rabbit Kistner for geotechnical engineering. Estimated construction cost for the project, as you've already seen, is $13.6 million. Our fee, for including all of the delivery of all services to get construction through construction documents, construction administration, is $1,136,621, which is about 8% of the overall estimated construction cost. Again, this is the consultant team. I've already mentioned them. I think with that, I'd just like to say we really look forward to continuing to work with the city and implement this exciting project.
All right. Any questions? If not, this is an action item.
To approve, Mayor.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Commissioner Camarillo, seconded by Commissioner Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Good luck. Keep up the great work. Item 23.
Item 23, consideration and action to award a contract for stone engraving services for the Veterans Memorial Park.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, at the request of our Parks and Rec Director, Skip Keller, as well as our City Manager, the Purchasing Department solicited formal sealed proposals for this project. It is the intent of the City of Brownsville to seek competitive bids from qualified contractors to provide all necessary materials for stone engraving, delivery, and installation services at the Veterans Memorial Park of the City of Brownsville. The City of Brownsville Parks and Recreation Department is currently working on a name list of approximately 7,000 veterans who served our country from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Grenada, Panama, Iraq, Afghanistan, up to the present time in Iraq. Approximately 35 to 40 names per panel will be engraved on a 2-inch thick black granite panel, which will measure 45 inches by 14 inches, be polished top and sawed edges. Those are the existing panels as they sit at the park today. Those were included in the original design specifications, and I think that the original contract allowed for a limited number of names to be engraved, 500 if I recall correctly. What we're doing is proposing a change to a stone that has a lot more permanence. We've seen some deterioration already on these stones, so before we get too far invested in putting a lot of names in them, we'd like to change it to something which is a little more traditional, a granite, which should be lasting as long as the park does. These bids were opened on Friday, March 23rd. One bid was received. The bid was received from a local concern, Pinkerton Memorials. The bid for the entire scope of the contract is $79,000. What we propose to you this evening is awarding a term contract that will allow for us to access the contract and do the engraving and the installation of stones. Number one, as we accumulate the names, and number two, as we accumulate the funding. Funding is an issue on this. The funding has been collected by the Veterans Park donations, and also the police department recently had a golf tournament. They're contributing $10,000 to this, so we have about $39,000 towards the $79,000. We will only release funds or release purchase orders up to the funding that is in place.
So what do we have in place, 39 or 40?
We have Pete's 29,755 that he's been accumulating, plus the 10,000 from the police department.
So a little over 40,000, so we need about approximately 39,000.
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Paul, will they be replacing the existing names that are on there?
That is correct.
Okay.
And so the names that are there already, and whatever number of names we can get up to that 40,000 is where, and now, how many names do we have, Commander? Come on, go on a step forward. Your project isn't over yet. Go ahead and speak to the mic.
But if my figures don't jive with his, we're supposed to have $59,000.
Okay.
So towards the whole 79,000.
So maybe we're only
So
20,
we're
we're
only
either 20 or 30
about-
short. or
About
something like
27 away
Okay.
from goal. So this is what we've come up with, you know. And
How many names do you already have?
we already have 7,000 names to go in there.
Okay, so this, Paul, if I'm correct, the 7,000 is what we anticipate will cost 79,000?
That was the figure given to
Is that
us.
right? Okay,
by,
all right.
Mayor, are we in any kind of a, I would like to do something to help.
I think that, and that's, I've already asked Mr. Cavler to look into it. I think
As,
we're in a
as,
position.
as we're going, we'll get into the new budget cycle, and if we have to make.
I think we're in a position now that, that's why I was asking exactly what that missing sum is, so that, I'm sure that if we pinch a couple of pennies together, rub them together, we may be able to find that in the next budget cycle. So I would hope that the incoming commission would consider that in the next
It's gonna take
budget.
some time to get it done, so
Yeah.
we'll get into a new budget cycle, and we'll.
Commander, are you gonna be having any more
If I may,
fundraising events?
We were
If I may,
talking about that.
Mayor, in the last 3 months, 3 or 4 months, on the veteran side, we raised $12,500. So, you know, we're helping as much as we can. And we wanted to get this bit, out of the way so we can get going with the project.
Yep.
As you know, I would like to explain, some of the people need to see what we're doing on there, that we're making some progress before they even donate. We've got some very, very good input as far as the park from the community and the tourists that have come into town. And they've congratulated, the city of Brownsville for such a beautiful project. And they've even written in and sent us donations from out of town all the way, all up and down the states. So the project is working, but we need to show something to the people that, especially the local veterans, that they can see something that is going on there. As we explained in the beginning, the original 500 names were put in there by Roth Construction, so we need to get in there with this other project, and I would appreciate it if you would.
Commander, if you're having any other upcoming events?
We're trying with.
We're trying to see if we can plan something for the weekend of Memorial Day.
Oh, yes, we are gonna have for Memorial. Yes, we already started on that one, in fact.
I know it need not be said, but if you need any of my musical services, you can count on
Thank you
them.
very much, Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. we
How about your
appreciate
equipment?
That's fine.
it. If it doesn't, I got mine, so not to
All right.
worry.
This is an action item.
Yes.
Would approve, Mayor.
Motion approved by Commissioner Camarillo, seconded by Commissioner Arroyo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 24.
Item 24, consideration and action to authorize amendment task order number 5 to the professional engineering services contract for the municipal solid waste facility at the city landfill to RJR Engineering Limited LLP.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, RJR Engineering is the current contracted engineering firm engaged to prepare the major permit amendment application, all related landfill engineering services. They've been under contract for a number of years. Over the past 2 years, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, has reopened, reviewed, updated, and redeveloped the TAC 330 rules that regulate waste disposal with the state of Texas. Some of this was inspired by the federal EPA delegated responsibility to the state that EPA was having difficulty with because of the required annual monitoring. Thus, the TCEQ needed to assemble these criteria into their own rules with the TCEQ interpretation. Other changes were made to the TAC 330 based on the changes that have occurred over the past 10, 15 years in the industry and the associated housekeeping. This has become a much regulated, highly technical industry as the waste stream has been changed over the 15 years. There have been rule changes related to water quality monitoring which impact us the most over the next 4.5 years relative to the proposal cost. Additional changes have been made to erosion control, monitoring, runoff assessment, and documentation. Runoff and erosion is now basically considered as a potential pollutant. Aside from these two areas, the TCEQ has continued to finalize the required necessary changes to air permitting that affects Title V permitting and our general operating permit at the landfill. Air permitting is one of the areas that continue to develop and in the future is uncertain. However, it is safe to say that the compliance will continue to become more strict statewide. These three major headings, water monitoring, erosion control, and air permitting, require us to be focused and prepared ahead. RGR is capable of leading the city through this maze of regulations and permit applications that require the specialized services of landfill engineers. They have obviously demonstrated this in the past. This amendment, task order number 5, allows RJR Engineering to continue to provide engineering and environmental services to the City of Brownsville landfill and to address additional permit and compliance issues related to the new TCEQ regulations, which were just implemented last year, March of 2006. Task order number 5 is divided into 14 individual tasks for project management purposes. The details on these tasks are included in your packet unless you'd like me to go through them one by one. Our recommendation is consideration and action to authorize an amendment, which is called Task Order Number 5, to the contract for professional engineering services for our municipal solid waste facility to RGR Engineering Limited LLP from Houston. The amount is $162,610 for the balance of our fiscal year 2007. Public Works Department has that money under their professional services line item. As part of task order number 5, staff also recommends approval of services for the subsequent coming 4 years. Services will be authorized annually, subject to the availability of funding. These additional services are projected to cost an additional $2,013,070 It's a large sum of money. As you all know, the landfill is also one of our major revenue producers in the city.
One of the biggest. No further discussion, I move to approve.
This is an action item. Motion to approve by Commissioner Longoria, seconded by Commissioner Camarillo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Mr. Kalapa, I don't know if you're aware, we were just voted one of the cleanest air cities in the country.
No, sir, I was not aware.
We need to make our citizens aware of that particular honor. I forget where we were ranked, but it was way up third in the entire country, I believe, so.
Staff has done a formidable job.
So
with the
that goes hand in hand with this type of work and these types of projects, so everybody at Public Works and at the landfill are to be commended for that. Item 25.
Thank you, David.
Item 25, consideration and action to award a contract for the purchase of vehicles for various city departments.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, at the request of all of our city's department directors, the purchasing department solicited formal sealed bids for this project. As you know, we try and do one major bid solicitation a year for the replacement vehicles in our city's fleet. Ivan Welker, our fleet administrator, will present the actual award recommendation to you.
Ivan, gas just went to $2.89. You sure you want to make the presentation?
That's a good point, Commissioner. Good evening. At the legal advertisement appeared in the Herald on March 18th. A total of 19 vehicle dealers on the vendor list were faxed an invitation to participate. 2 acknowledgements were subsequently received by the department. A pre-bid meeting was conducted on March 28th, '07. No vehicle dealers were represented at the pre-bid hearing. A request for an extension was requested by a local dealership. The original bid opening was April 5th, '07, which was subsequently extended to April 12th, '07 at 3 o'clock. Sealed formal bids were opened for the subject project on April 12th, '07. 2 bids were received and tabulated by the purchasing contracting office. The 2 bids were Tipton Ford and Tippetech Chevrolet. The attached bid tabulation sheet is an analysis of the bids received for the commission's consideration. Now, there are 12 following items asking for your approval. These are splitting up the purchases between Tipton Ford and Chevrolet based on cost. I recommend approval for all. These are
Mr.
21
Walker.
vehicles.
I have a question. Why is it that all of these vehicles are V8 engines when we're paying $2.99 or $2.89 a gallon on gas? Why aren't there any V6s?
We did ask for V6s, but they're not available in those particular models. If you ask for 4x4 or extended cab with trailering rear ends, they require
These
8-cylinder.
aren't police vehicles. Why do we have to have so much power if they're just going to be driving around in the engineering department? and-
I'll give you one example. 3 weeks
Give me
ago,
one. Sorry?
3 weeks ago,
Okay.
we had that flooding.
Yes.
That's exactly when these vehicles are called into action, so to speak. Not on a normal day-to-day stuff, but that's exactly when they're running around, putting up barricade signs, clearing, whatever the case might be.
And they work off-road as well
Yeah.
in the newly
Okay, thank you.
cleared areas.
But you could get V6s and put bigger tires, right? Put lifts on them.
Not at this price, sir.
Well, maybe in this, for the ecology and the environment in the future, we ought to look at V6s and maybe just for critical care vehicles or something, V8.
Point taken.
Thank you.
This is an action item.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Arroyo,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Longoria. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. We have one public comment, Mr. Ruiz, regarding the city election. We won't start until you're ready, sir.
I'm ready. First of all, my name is Fernando Ruiz, and I am an advocate of a good government. Well, I also have credentials. I have a master's degrees in political sciences and a sub-focus in history and finance. I am an advocate of good government, and I'm for the poor guy, But I was looking at the forms here because I was concerned about one of the candidates for this coming election. I feel that the election is a responsibility of city government, and I think that that is supposed to be overseen by our bureaucracy to make sure that we follow the criteria of the Secretary of State. Reading the newspaper, I found out that one of the candidates was making all these smart remarks, and I took it upon myself to do some research. I went to the appraisal district and found out that that candidate's homestead exemption is not within the district that she's running for, number one. Number two, I also was a little bit of input from information that she stated on television that on November the 13th of 2006, that her address was 25 Skyview. I confirmed that, and still, if she moved next day, she still does not have the 6 months to comply to be able to participate in the election in this district. All I want to say that these forms are not complete, and the Secretary of State says they must be complete. Otherwise, they're no good. They're no good. But the people will vote this early election and also on the 12th. And they know, and I want them to know what the score is. She does not deserve to be running for that district. And sir, she has violated federal and state statutes. So we need to look into that. Whose responsibility is that? Not mine. We need to not fast track. And I want to congratulate you, sir, how you address Mr. Goza, because we do not need to fast track anymore, because we oversee a lot of things that we're supposed to be responsible to the people for. I don't think there's malintention. It's that we have to do things within a right frame of time so that when we will not be there at the last minute, stuck with all this and not make the right call. That's all. Thank you. And if I don't see you again, thank you for serving your term here. And I want to be glad when the new mayor comes in, because I won't have to wait till the last minute to speak. And I'll remember you forever.
Same goes here, sir. Meeting is adjourned.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Bill Young. We're still live, and we're still here in the City Commission chambers. We're visiting with Mayor Eddie Trevino Jr., who is, well, depending on how things go, on the 12th, you may be back again. You may be back for another month or so. Then again, this may be your last meeting. By my reckoning, you've done this, gosh, more than 100 times. At least 100 times.
Feels like the first time every time.
Is there any one meeting, or is there any one thing, or any one set of events that stands out in your mind, all these meetings you've chaired and all the things you've seen?
Well, I think that there have been a few meetings that garnered a lot of excitement and notoriety for the spirited discussions and or debate that we had between the members on the commission. But for the most part, those meetings that we had where we approved projects that were either something that I had been working on since I got on the commission, or that we knew were going to really expand the quality of life or bring additional benefit to the city. Those are the meetings that probably stand out. But the reality is every meeting that we've had has always had some action that resulted in what we hope would be a better way of living here in Brownsville. So it's hard to differentiate or separate one particular meeting, but the one that stands out in my mind the most is obviously my first meeting as mayor, and I'll remember that one forever. And depending on how the election goes, I really didn't anticipate this being my last meeting, and that's why I hadn't been thinking about it. But if it was, it's nice to go out on a good note with regards to some of the positive action that we took tonight. But there's always debate, there's always questions, there's always issues. I know that this commission is going to continue to work for the benefit of Brownsville, and I'm glad to have been part of it for the last 6 years.
One thing that I learned tonight, and it's obviously a very positive for you, is that in your watch, the fund balance has grown by $6 million.
Actually, more than that, but that was just in the last 2 years, and then obviously we're hoping that it continues at least in that amount now. The tax rate's gone down, the fund balance has gone up, appraisals have gone up, the revenue of the city's gone up, services have gone up, we've paved more streets than anybody ever has. These are all as a result of a lot of people working together, the environment being positive. We're also looking forward to making a very, very positive announcement on May the 24th. I can't say anything more than that at this time, but it's going to be a project, an announcement that's going to be of extreme benefit long-term for the economic outlook of the city, and I'm real excited about it. And I can't wait for May 24th to get here soon enough.
Well, Mayor, something tells me that we'll be seeing you here again on the 15th. So probably for 2 or 3 meetings after that. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Good evening, everyone. Have a pleasant night. This is Bill Young for the City of Brownsville.